Senate will come to order. Leading us in prayer today is the Reverend John Fetty, who is a retired pastor here in Pierre. Following the prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our pages of the day, Ada Ryder from Henry High School and Grant Roth from O'Gorman High School in Sioux Falls.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for your grace, your mercy, and peace in the past. But your word says your mercies are new every day, so we come again, Lord. We ask for each legislator here that you would guide them and direct them in the duties set before them. But Father, we also ask that you be with the families of those who are in this auditorium today. We ask, Lord, for our military, to grant them safety. Lord, that you would protect them and guide them. Now, Father, we ask for every family again, draw them to you. And Lord, we look forward to the answers to our prayers. For this, I ask in Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal, Blunt, Carley, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Miskimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Pischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, and Zickman. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Approval of the journal.
Mr. President, the Committee on Legislative Procedure reports that the Secretary of the Senate has had under consideration the Senate Journal of the 22nd day. All errors, typographical or otherwise, are duly marked in the temporary journal for correction, and we hereby move adoption of the report. Submitted, Chris Carr, Chair.
That has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to welcome the doctor of the day at this time, and it is the guy in the white coat, our old friend, Dr. Noel Chicoine, helping us here again today. Let's thank him. Senator Colbeck.
Personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we have the guests from Sioux Falls, the Greater Sioux Falls Chamber, and also the Chamber of Commerce Leadership School. They will be hosting an event tonight at Red Rosa starting at 5. They represent tens of thousands of citizens and businesses in the Sioux Falls area. Please stand, and if we please welcome them to the Senate.
Welcome. Senator Hulse.
Thank you, Mr. President. Personal privilege, please.
Granted.
Thank you. I have actually two of them today, and I'm going to start with the closest one to home. We have members of the Hill City School Board with us today. They were granted the School Board of Excellence Award this year, and so joining us is Eric Lund, the president of the school board, Eric Lind, the president, and Carmen Ronish, the vice president of the school board. So please welcome the best school board in South Dakota for 2026, Hill City.
Welcome.
And then to my left over here, we have the South Dakota Advocacy Network for Women, which is a nonpartisan collaborative focused on women's rights. They do this by strengthening women's voices through advocacy, communication, and action, and we'd like to thank them for their coffee this morning that they served us for breakfast. So give them a welcome.
Welcome to the Senate. Senator Reed.
Personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, today is Victim Services Day in the Rotunda, and the South Dakota Network Against Family Violence and Sexual Assault sets this up, and there's several organizations that were part of it: East River Legal Services, SOLAS, Winter Resource Center, Safe Place of Eastern South Dakota, Esther's Rising, Artemis House, which is Victims of Violence Intervention, First Circuit CASA, DCI Victim Witness Program, SAVIN, South Dakota Highway Patrol Crash Assistance Program, and Working Against Violence Incorporated, and Child's Voice. Please welcome to the Capitol and thank them for the lunch today in the Rotunda.
Welcome. Senator Shamefish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Personal privilege.
Granted.
In the gallery to the right up there, we have the Trip Delmont Senior Government class led by their teacher, Adam Miller. And I just want to say Adam Miller was a Senate intern in 2021. So please stand. Welcome.
Welcome. Communications.
Mr. President and members of the Senate, pursuant to the provisions of the South Dakota codified laws and subject to your consent, I have the honor to inform you that I have appointed Corey Byerly, Haken County, Midland, South Dakota, to the State Brand Board. Sincerely, Larry Roden, Governor.
The President Pro Tem has referred that appointment to the Senate Committee on Ag and Natural Resources. Reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Committee on Senate State Affairs reports that it has had the following under consideration and returns with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 110 be amended and returns to the floor without recommendation. Submitted, Jim Melhoff, Chair. Also, Senate State Affairs reports that it has had Senate Bill 175 under consideration and returns without recommendation. Submitted, Jim Melhoff, Chair. Also, Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Appropriations reports that it has had the following under consideration and returns with the following recommendations. House Bill 1018 do pass. Submitted, Ernie Otten, Chair. The Committee on Senate Transportation reports it has had the following under consideration and returns with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 219 be amended and do pass, and having been certified uncontested, be placed on the consent calendar. Senate Bill 240 be referred to the Joint Committee on Appropriations with a do pass recommendation. House Bill 1227 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Randy Dybert, Chair. Also, Mr. President, the Committee on Health and Human Services reports it has had the following under consideration and returns the same with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 87 be amended and do pass, and having been certified uncontested, be placed on the consent calendar. Senate Bill 233 was deferred to the 41st legislative day. Submitted, Kevin Johnson, Chair. The Committee on Senate Local Government reports it has had the following under consideration and returns the following recommendations. Senate Bill 237 be amended and do pass. Senate Bill 236 be amended and do pass, and having been certified uncontested, be placed on the consent calendar. Submitted, Tim Reed, Chair. Also, Mr. President, the Committee on Senate State Affairs reports it has had the following under consideration and returns with the following recommendations. Senate Bills 127 and 128 were deferred to the 41st legislative day. Senate Bill 135 do pass. Submitted, Jim Melhoff, Chair. And finally, Mr. President, the Committee on Legislative Procedure reports that the Office of Engrossing and Enrolling has carefully compared Senate Bills 63 and finds correctly enrolled. Submitted, Chris Carr, Chair.
Messages.
Mr. President, I have the honor to return Senate Bill 63, which has passed the House without change. Also, I have the honor to transmit HCR 6011, which has been adopted by the House, and your concurrence is requested. And finally, I have the honor to transmit House Bills 1065, 1146, 1148, 1173, 1219, 1241, 1250, and 1264, which have all passed the House, and your favorable consideration is requested. Respectfully, Patricia Miller, Chief Clerk.
Motions and resolutions.
Senator Melhoff moves that Senate Bill 208 be deferred to Thursday, February 19th, 2026, the 24th legislative day.
It has been moved and seconded to defer Senate Bill 208. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries.
First reading of HCR 6011, encouraging the Executive Board of the Legislative Research Council to form an interim neurohealth safety committee to study and assess the regulatory framework under which vapor product retail establishments operate.
Committee referral on HCR 6011 has been waived according to Joint Rule 61.
Yesterday, Senator Carr announced his intention to reconsider the vote by which Senate Bill 95 lost. Senator Carr moves that the Senate do now reconsider the vote by which 195 lost.
It's been moved by Senator Carr to reconsider the vote by which Senate Bill 195 lost. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Senator Carr.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my fellow senators. I would ask for you to reconsider hearing SB 195. I think we had a really great discussion, and I think it was a long day. Hopefully you had time to think about some of the things that we discussed about the promise that was made, why it's appropriate to keep the sales tax low, not use sales tax dollars for other items that we shouldn't be.
Senator Reed.
I think we need to stick to the merits of reconsideration, not the bill itself.
All right, Senator Carr.
Well, I hope some of those things have resonated and it has changed your mind. I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on the motion to reconsider? Seeing no further remarks, this is a roll call vote. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Kolbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Miss Gimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Pischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Zickman, Foster, Roll, Mr. President, we have 16 yeas, 17 nays, with 2 excused.
So the motion having failed to receive an affirmative vote of a majority of the members elect, the President declares the motion lost. Consideration of committee reports.
Senator Melhoff moves that the report of the Standing Committee on Education on Senate Bill 218, as found on page 266 of the Senate Journal, be adopted.
That has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That carries. First reading of Senate bills.
The President declared that Senate Bill 207 was withdrawn at the request of the prime sponsor pursuant to JR 6B-1.1.
First reading of House bills.
House Bill 1065 revised the medical purpose affirmative defense in cannabis prosecution. House Bill 1146 adopt the physician assistant licensure compact. House Bill 1148 adopt the respiratory care interstate compact. House Bill 1173 requires certain applicants that seek a permit from the Public Utilities Commission of the state of South Dakota to prepare and pay for an environmental impact statement. House Bill 1219 require the provision of interpreter or translator services for parties to an administrative contested case. House Bill 1241 increase the amount of value exempt from property taxes under a tax relief program for disabled veterans and surviving spouses. House Bill 1250 revised the types of community-based providers for purposes of state-funded services. And House Bill 1264 eliminate the Agricultural Land Assessment Implementation and Oversight Advisory Task Force, and to provide that the Department of Revenue receive the submission of recommendations and provide a report on agricultural value.
President Pro Tem has made the following committee assignments: to Senate Ag and Natural Resources, House Bill 1264, to Senate Commerce and Energy, House Bill 1173, to Senate Health and Human Services, House Bills 1065, 1146, 1148, and 1250, to Senate Judiciary, House Bill 1219, to Senate Tax, House Bill 1241. In addition, House Bill 1209, which was read on a previous day, has been assigned to the Senate State Affairs Committee. The consent calendar.
Today on consent, we have 3 bills. House Bill 1003, amend provisions pertaining to the required criminal background investigation of certain school employees. House Bill 1019, revise provisions regarding pesticide laws. And House Bill 1035, modify provisions related to the licensure of public accountants.
Items on the consent calendar were reported out of committee with no dissenting votes and are not subject to debate. Only questions for clarification purposes are appropriate. There will be 1 vote taken for all bills on the consent calendar. Are there any questions at this time? Seeing none, the question before the Senate is, shall the items on the consent calendar pass? As your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Miskimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Fischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Zickman, Carr, Mr. President, we have 34 yeas with 1 excused.
So the consent calendar items having received a majority vote of the members-elect, the consent calendar items are declared passed. Are there any questions on the titles? Hearing none, they are deemed correct. We're on the debate calendar, second reading of Senate bills.
Senate Bill 224, an act to provide a rebutable presumption in favor of joint physical custody of a minor child.
Senate Bill 224, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Senator Pischke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I bring forward this legislation today because I believe it represents the best interests of children, the best interests of parents, and the pursuit of a balanced and fair legal framework. The concept of joint physical custody has long been supported by research and, more importantly, by the lived experiences of families. A rebuttable presumption simply means that the starting point or the default assumption is that both parents should share time with their children equally, unless there's compelling evidence that this would not be in the best interest of the child. First and foremost, joint physical custody ensures that children have equal access to both parents, which is essential for the emotional, psychological, and social development. Studies consistently show that children do better when they maintain strong relationships with both of their parents. They experience less stress, have better academic performance, and develop healthier emotional well-being. Develop healthier emotional well-being when they spend significant time with both mother and father. A rebuttable presumption of joint physical custody affirms this reality and gives children the opportunity to bond with both parents. However, it should be noted that this presumption does not mean it's a one-size-fits-all solution. It's crucial to note that this rebuttable presumption simply means that it's a starting point. It can be adjusted if evidence shows that the joint arrangement is not in the best interest of the child. For instance, if one parent or the other has a history of abuse, neglect, instability, the presumption can be challenged and easily overcome. This framework maintains the flexibility necessary to adapt to the unique circumstances of each family. Finally, the rebuttable presumption of joint physical custody is not just a matter of fairness, it's a matter of promoting healthy family dynamics by encouraging parents to share time and responsibilities equally. This law sends a powerful message about collaboration and cooperation. It encourages parents to work together to communicate and be partners in raising their children. This in itself can reduce conflict and foster a more stable, positive environment for the children. As many of you know, I've been working on this legislation for my entire legislative career. Brought one form of this or another over the years. And when I first started, there were no states that had a presumption on the books. And at this point, there are 5 states that now have it. And so I'm asking you today that we join those 5 states and keep doing what's best for children and families across the state of South Dakota. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224, Senator Duhamel.
Thank you, Mr. President. My fellow senators, I stand in opposition to Senate Bill 224. This is my 7th year here in the legislature opposing this type of legislation. I stand in support of the best interests of the child. Under the current law, which prohibits any presumption, both parents start on a level playing field. The courts, when faced with making a decision regarding custody, are instructed to take a balanced approach and focus on what is the best interests of each child and sibling set. There is currently no bias in the law. The focus is right where it should be, on the best interests of the child. If a presumption, any presumption is inserted into the current law, we remove parents from that equal footing starting point and allow one parent leverage. This is not what is in the best interests of children and families in South Dakota. Family lawyers are seeing more shared parenting by choice, and they don't end up in court. These are the ones that can keep it together and not fight. Family lawyers are also receiving calls from non-custodial parents wanting to petition for shared parenting so they can reduce or remove their child support obligation, not in the best interests of the child.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224, Senator Voida.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I like that our law currently says that it's supposed to be about the best interest of the child, but we've seen in practice that that's not always how it works out in court. By instructing judges to start with both parents sharing custody, now we have set the stage for what should the judge be looking at that is important for the child. So many judges in the past, whether it was their own experiences, family experiences, whatever it is, we have seen a bias against, and I'm just going to straight up say it, against the father. And I'm going to stand up as a mother who sees the value in the father being in the child's life. You have to have both parents present because both parents bring their own unique role, their own unique set of skills, set of moral teachings, everything that family unit was supposed to be made of. They need both of them to be present. And the reason that we want to put this rebuttable presumption in there is to say, courts, start here. And then if this isn't in the best interest of the child, let's talk about it and let's tweak it. But so many times, I think everybody can probably think of a friend, a family member, somebody that has been in a custody dispute and one parent or the other has been completely cut out of their child's life. And now some people are going to argue, oh, they only want to go after this custody because they don't want to pay child support. And I think that is a hogwash argument because most people that are going after custody are sick of paying for their kids and never getting to see them. And that is unacceptable. It makes me really angry, actually. And that is why I'll be supporting this, because I think that the judges need some direction on where they should start looking for what is in the best interest of the child. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224, Senator Howard.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I want to echo the sentiments of my seatmate, and I disagree with one of the former speakers. I would say the rebuttable presumption is a level playing field. That's where we should start. That's what's fairest between both the mom and the dad. And I don't know if I've told this story before, but my mom and dad divorced when I was 2. And that was quite a while ago. And back then, pretty much the mom was given sole custody. My dad was given every other weekend, 2 weeks in the summer. But he lived in another state, so I rarely saw my dad growing up. And I can tell you, I made sure my kids were brought up very differently because not only did I watch my dad suffer, it broke his heart. But I know my sister and I paid for that as well, not having our father in our lives. So I think what is in the best interest of the child is this, and telling the courts that it's very clear that, as my seatmate said, both parents are critical for the development of our children. So that's where we should start, and I would urge your favorable consideration of this.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224. Further remarks, Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This hits close to home, very close to home for me. And again, it's not just parents that suffer, it's aunts. It's aunts who suffer as well. Because if your brother-in-law or whoever, sister-in-law or brother or sister, don't get time with that kid, guess who else does it? Grandmas and grandpas, aunts and uncles who love them dearly and don't get to see them. The thing about it is after I testified last year on this bill, I bet I had a handful of men reach out to me from District 18. All of them said, some of them didn't even have a heads up. Their kids were gone and they did not get to see them. And guess what? In order to get to the point where they could see them, guess how much money they had to spend and how much time and energy they had to fight? It takes 2 to tango, 50-50. And I think that's where this should start. 50-50 on the same yard line, the middle of the field. Again, what's best for the child? And like the previous speaker said, kids need a mom and a dad because moms and dads bring something special, each one of them, for that child. And again, if they go to court and they find out there's special circumstances or things going on, the judge will find that out. And then he can move that placing the ball. Instead of on the 50, we're going to move it because there's proven, credible evidence. That's the other thing that irritates me, is how much false accusations are thrown out there and thrown out there and thrown out there. And again, whoever is being accused of, they've got to fight and fight and fight against false accusations. Let's put it on the 50-yard line. Let's leave it there. Let's start there and then go from there, however circumstances come out. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224? Senator Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I think I want to just bring the temperature down a little bit. There's a lot of emotions right now, and it's understandable. I think we need to revert back to the language of the bill, and I think the removal of the language in the last 2 lines of the bill tells a lot of the story. This bill removes the following language from our code. The court shall determine appropriate physical care, custody, control of the minor child based on the determination of the best interests of the child. Those 2 lines are being struck. The proposed shift in this bill, it values symmetry in parenting time over stability for the children. Values symmetry over stability for the children. I listened to the committee testimony, and we heard that shared parenting time can work really well. And I'm not here to dispute that both parents are important. I'm here to say that it works really well when it's voluntary and it's cooperative. But a presumption in and of itself does not create that cooperation between parents. Our current law allows courts to put kids first. Our South Dakota Supreme Court said this as recently as 2024, a couple years ago. Permeating our more typical custody and visitation decisions in the unremitting principle that our brightest beacon remains the best interest of the child in all judicial decisions concerning a child's care. Our current law outlines 23 separate factors for a court to consider when they are determining the best interests of the child. 23 different items that judges are instructed to take into consideration. That includes, a request for the that includes the geographic proximity of the parents. These are real and practical considerations that allow the courts to make the case for specific rulings in the best interest of the child. Please don't strike this language. Please do not shift this legislation. Do not value symmetry over stability. Please vote no.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224? Senator Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to remind everyone that we tell judges every day in this body a starting point. We give a starting point, misdemeanors, felonies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We give them a range every year. We change them here all the time. But I want to remind you, just a few days ago, we passed a bill that says to provide for the rights of a parent. But in this case, we don't start with equal rights. The good senator from Pennington County makes that we start from nothing, but I think it's much more fair for the parents, the rights of the parents, to start with an equal footing. We passed that bill. Keep that in mind when you vote on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224? Further remarks? Senator Grove.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I have been pushing back against this bill for just as long as the good senator from Pennington County. Yeah. And we've been on the same side on this, and I would say this. So the parental rights bill that we just passed was, the language in the bill said it was in the best interest of the child. And that is why I brought the bill, because I believe in the best interest of the child. One of the things that I've heard often is that when I say that I don't support shared parenting, the first response that comes back at me is, well, you don't think that dads should have time with their kids? Like, it couldn't be any further from the truth. I absolutely believe that a massive part of the problem that we have in society today is because we do not have enough active fathers in the lives of the children. But so it goes back to what was stated before about the symmetry and the stability. And so I just want you to consider this. I know that a lot of you are very emotionally connected to this. You have childhoods where your father was gone. You've expressed those stories. But I just want to say this is not then. Things are very, very different. And as stated before, we have 23 different things that a judge can look at when he sits there and looks at these two people. He can make this decision and say, what is the best interest of the child? We travel here every however many months we're out here, 3 months or whatever. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about the stability of a little child packing up their suitcase and moving to one house for so many days, living there, and then having to pack their suitcase again and going back over here. That's not stability. And I'm sad that I guess, the child is here a little bit more often than here or whatever, however that goes. But the child deserves stability. One of the things that I went through when I went through my divorce, and I prayed for it constantly, is, Lord, help me keep my home. Help me keep my home. Because I wanted my children to come home to the same bedroom every single night. I wanted them to feel stability, even though I was a disaster. I wanted them to look out the same windows and know that they were in the same neighborhood with the same little friends. That's not what this brings about. This is the best interest of the parent. This is not the best interest of the child, and that has to be first. And let's not even, maybe I will mention the fact that we have some parents who are in very violent, dangerous situations. And now that person is going to have to go to court with this abuser and try to prove to the court that they are being abused in order to not have to share their child. This is one of those issues where it is best that there are many options and you start with what is best for that kid. And again, what is best is that they have both parents. It's just how do you get to that place? And I think that it looks different than what you think. So I think we should leave options on the table and leave the bill or the law as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224? Further remarks? Senator Blanc.
Thank you. I'm a product of what we've been talking about. As my good friend from Pennington County also mentioned, my parents got divorced when I was 10, and I would have loved to have both of my parents equally involved in my life. Statistics have proven for millennia that the best thing, we're talking about the interest of the child. Well, the best thing for the interest of the child is to grow up with a loving mom and a loving dad. And I know it's not easy in the culture that we live in when divorce is not rare. Should be rare. The best interest of the child is for parents to humble themselves, to do their best to work things out. And I know that that's not always the case. But we keep throwing out this term, what's in the best interest of the child? That's what it takes, is the parents. Why do the children have to suffer because the parents can't work it out? We should try and make that, grew up in California. I'm a recovered Californian, by the way, not recovering. I was a South Dakotan long before I stepped on South Dakota soil. But no-fault divorce has hurt our nation, and it's hurt the family structure. It's good. We've talked about this. I think all of us have mentioned this, and we just have definition we pour into it. It's good to look at each case individually, but why not? I cannot think of a good reason why we would not start with what's actually a level playing field. Rebuttable presumption of joint custody, I just don't understand why that can't be the norm. Don't know why it's not always been the norm. Why is it not? Why is it not in the best interest of the child to not have both parents equally involved? They're in this situation. They're being moved around. My good friend from Brule mentioned that, yeah, it's hard. I went through that. So did many of you. I went through having to pack up my bags and having to go and spend time with Dad and having to go and spend time with Mom. But I'll tell you this, I cherished my moments with both of them. And I can't speak for every child, and I know that there's some very uncomfortable positions in some households. It's not always the dad, it's not always the mom. It can happen equally. Rebuttable presumption doesn't remove the judge's discretion and ability to look at each case individually, including, hasn't been mentioned here, but the underlying current is that there's some possibility of domestic violence. Well, I'm police department chaplain for 21 years. I know that domestic violence happens on both sides, both with moms and with dads. I think it's just simple common sense to let dads and moms start with a level playing field and leave it to the judge's discretion to be able to make his decision based on the facts of that individual case. That is why I'm going to be supporting this bill, and I would highly encourage you to as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224, Senator Melhoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise reluctantly to speak on this bill. It's one that we've dealt with ever since I've been in the legislature, and it's one that I've actually been involved in prior to being in the legislature. I'm the 10th of 11 kids. I grew up in a mostly loving home. My mother and father were married for their entire marriage. My dad was kind of a mover and a shaker. He was involved in sports, played baseball, won a state title, served in the legislature, was chairman of the South Dakota Bankers Association. And do you know what all those things meant? It meant it took him out of the home quite a bit. That did not mean he didn't love us. He took us with him a lot. We spent a lot of great times with my dad, but it clearly set my mother as the primary caregiver in our family, plus some of my older brothers and sisters, because that's the way it is in a big family. Now, God forbid if our family would have broke up. That would have been terrible, because research shows that the best thing a father can do for his kids is to love that kid's mother. And my dad did that. And he made sacrifices, and I bet sometimes he would have liked to just keep on a rolling when he was out doing some of the fun and interesting things that he did, but he was deeply in love with my mother. He was dedicated to his family, and when those things blow up, as they do in this society, it leaves a lot of collateral damage, and most of it is done to those kids who have to suffer through the devastating breakdown of that most important relationship. It should be the most important. If you're married, your relationship with your spouse should be your number one relationship. And when that breaks, there is a lot of collateral damage. And the kids who are left in the wake of that, the emotional devastation, the unquestioning where you should go next, there is just way too much for this body to look at that and start saying to the judges, the courts, the people who are in the thick of it, who have to look out for the best interests of those children, to tell them where they have to start from. The families broke up. You're not going to get the best thing for that kid anymore because the family's broke, and that's the worst thing that can happen. Well, let's let the folks who are tasked with picking up the pieces and finding the best way forward for each kid in each different situation, let's give them the tools and the latitude to make the best decision each and every time, and not shackle them into a starting spot that may or may not be the best. Hopefully they can get there, because I believe a mother and a father should both be involved. But if it's not in the best interest of the child, and sometimes it's not, we should not be rebutting that as the place to start. So I would urge a no vote on this and keep the best interests of the child at the center. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224? Senator Hohn?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, statistics show that children that are in a stable environment, they have higher educational attainment, better physical and emotional health, lower poverty rates, fewer behavioral or substance abuse issues. Isn't this what we really want for our children? Just think about this. These are goals that we should all attain, and we need to start by thinking of our children and putting them in the best interests of what is good for them, and starting out on a 50-50, a level playing field, is what we should all consider, and I would ask for you to support Senate Bill 224.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224? Senator Vilhauer.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the Prime.
State your question.
Senator, you said that, I believe you said there were 5 states that have adopted similar legislation at this point. Any thoughts or comments as to why more states have not?
Senator Pischke, would you wish to respond?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will try, but I don't know. I mean, when we get this passed here, maybe I'll move to one of those other states and become a legislator there. I don't know why other states haven't passed it yet.
Further remarks, Senator Vilhauer?
I guess my concern is this is an issue that's been dealt with for decades, for generations, and I guess the fact that only 5 out of 50 states have adopted something similar to this does concern me that this might be a path that we don't want to go down at this point, so I'm going to be a no on this.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 224? Senator Pischke in closing.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And thank you all for the lively debate. It's been said to me, you know, that time heals all wounds. And maybe that's true. You know, 10 years ago, I would rise and talk about this issue and have a lot of passion, like my friend from District 21 and my friend from Yankton. And today, I guess they've just been through the system and beat down enough that I don't quite have that emotional reaction. But one thing that does bother me a little bit still, since my kids are still teenagers and 12, is the suitcase argument. When my kids come to Del Rapids and visit me every other weekend or every other week during the summer, guess what they show up with? A suitcase. They are suitcase kids when they come to this visit their non-custodial parent. But guess who's not a suitcase kid? My stepson. Unfortunately, he's probably not watching yet, but he's going to get out of Del's pub here in a few minutes. And he probably would be watching with his mom back home. But he doesn't have a suitcase. He goes to his dad, who lives 7 miles south of Del's, has all his stuff there. He has all his stuff here in Del Rapids. He has a great relationship with him, with his dad, with his mom, with me, with my kids. But yet he wonders why. Why does Tom's kids have to deal with this? And unfortunately, when I went through the system, this is the law that was in place. And so I can't advocate more as a personal note, why this is important. Because I see the difference firsthand every day with my stepson and with my kids personally. Getting away from that, I want to get back to the bill a little bit. You know, the issues with before I get on the bill, sir, with no disrespect to the good senator from Huron, there are not many days that I missed your predecessor, but today is one of those days because he helped me write this language that you have here before you. And I feel like if he was here today, he could explain exactly what this bill does and how it's not changing the world. You know, we deal with domestic violence issues in lines 15 through 17. It actually, if you look at 25-4A-22, we actually flip that on its head. If you have domestic violence issues, it actually creates a presumption the other way, saying that joint physical custody is not in the best interest of the child. It was made note of that we're eliminating Section 3, which is 25-4A-26. And obviously, the first sentence of that has to be repealed because says there's nothing that creates a presumption. And then the other line talks about the court shall determine the appropriate physical care, custody, and control. All those things are determined in the factors, 25-4A-24, which the opponents actually brought up, which is great. Those are all the factors that the court will go through when determining the physical care, custody, and control of the minor child. That's what they're there for. So the language is good, the timing is good. You know, the good senator from Watertown, you made comment about why don't have more states do this. There's a history lesson there that I'm not going to get into in this closing, but we've gone from I think it's the tender years doctrine, and if you talk to a judge, they'll get into that, and we're moving away from that here, and more states are getting away from that doctrine and coming into more of the presumption language. You know, things in government take time to move. As we know, you want to make a substantial change in government, it takes a while to get things through this body and to the other body and make change. So to answer your question there, sir, is that more states are looking at it and talking about it, but it takes time. So with that all said, Mr. President, I appreciate the lively debate we had today. Obviously, there probably should have been more bills, so we had other things to talk about, but this was the one up today. And I would just ask for your favorable consideration, and thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no further remarks, the question before the Senate is final passage of Senate Bill 224. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal, excused, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dibert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Kolbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Miskimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry? Peterson? Pischke? Reed? Roll? Souter? Shanefish? Smith? Vilhauer? Voigt? Voida? Whip? Zickman? Mr. President, we have 20 yeas, 14 nays, 1 excused.
So Senate Bill 224, having received an affirmative vote of a majority of the members elect, the President declares the bill passed. Are there any questions on the title? Seeing none, it's deemed correct. We will move to second reading of House bills. Senator Melhoff.
May I have a personal privilege?
Granted.
Thank you very much. I believe the Phillip High School government class is in the gallery today. They showed up a week early under the direction of Chandler Subdeck. Are you folks up there? If you are, please stand up, smile, and wave, and we'll welcome you.
All right, stand up. Are they here?
Maybe they're walking out. We'll welcome them in. Yes.
Senator Smith.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Personal privilege.
Granted.
We have a former legislator in the House. I'd like to introduce Pam Cole over here. She was from Brookings, South Dakota, and she's in the House today. Welcome back.
Welcome. We're on to second reading of House bills.
House Bill 1201, an act to authorize the use of bingo games, lotteries, and pull-tab devices by booster clubs.
House Bill 1201, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks?
Mr. President.
Senator Vilhauer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, hopefully this debate's going to be a little more lighthearted than the previous bill was. This bill was brought to me and my counterpart over in the House, Matt Roby, from fraternal orders of police, fire departments, as well as any number of booster clubs that do fundraising for their organization. House Bill 1201 amends the statutes that currently allow several categories of not-for-profit entities to operate bingo games, raffles, and pull tabs. It really has two purposes. One is to add the term booster club in the language, allowing them to conduct bingo, lottery, and own pull tab machines. The second is to clear up confusion regarding whether or not pull tab machines can be located at a third-party location. The current law was interpreted by the Attorney General in 2004 that the law allows pull tab machines to only be located on their own premises. The problem is that most of the qualifying organizations don't own their own real estate, and if they do, they aren't ideal locations to raise money through pull tabs. Think Boys and Girls Clubs, for example. By making this clarification, we're being mindful not to allow their proliferation by doing the following. A, limiting the third-party location to only places that have a malt beverage license, so they won't be showing up at McDonald's, Subway, hardware store, and the like. B, limiting the number of machines to 1 per location. And C, limiting the number of machines per organization to 2. Now, it was asked in the committee discussion and also the House floor debate, if you look at who can currently have bingo games, raffles, and pull tab machines, it does mention political parties and political candidates. Well, this, yes, that is true, but this change, if you read the second part of the bill, it clearly shows that this does not, the pull tab exception does not include those sorts of organizations, so we can't go out and have a pull tab machine in a place out there. So I want to make sure that that is understood. Anyway, I would appreciate a yes vote from you on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1201? Further remarks? Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I was one of the no votes in committee, and that was for a couple reasons. I do view this as an expansion of gambling, and I'm opposed to that. And I also don't think it's a good example to set for our children that we're using gambling to raise funds for their activities. So for those reasons, I was a no, and I will be a no.
Thank you. For the remarks on House Bill 1201. For the remarks. Senator Vilhauer, do you have anything to add in closing?
I don't, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the Senate is final passage of House Bill 1201. When your name is called, those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carly, Crabtree, Davis, Dybert, Duhamel, Foster, Grove, Hone, Howard, Hulse, Jensen, Carr, Colbeck, Lapke, Larson, Marty, Melhoff, Ms. Skimmons, Nelson, Otten, Perry, Peterson, Pischke, Reed, Roll, Souter, Shanefish, Smith, Vilhauer, Voigt, Voida, Whip, Sickman, Duhamel, Pischke. Mr. President, we have 19 yeas, 15 nays, 1 excused.
So, House Bill 1201, having received an affirmative vote of a majority of the members elect, the President declares the bill passed. Are there any questions on the title? Seeing none, it's deemed correct. And we are up to the signing of bills. The Constitution of South Dakota requires that bills be signed by the President in open session and have their titles read. Sounds like we've got 5 today, and at this time the President is signing Senate Bill 63, an act to establish the State Office of Apprenticeship within the Department of Labor and Regulation. At this time, the President is signing House Bill 1030, an act to amend provisions pertaining to the timing of municipal elections. At this time, the President is signing House Bill 1043, an act to make an appropriation to reimburse healthcare professionals who have complied with the requirements for rural recruitment assistance programs and to declare an emergency. At this time, the President is signing House Bill 1118, an act to make an appropriation for the design and construction of an addition to the existing swine wean-to-finish barn at South Dakota State University and to declare an emergency. At this time, the President is signing House Bill 1137, an act to make an appropriation for the design and construction of an athletic facility at the University of South Dakota and to declare an emergency. Announcements. Senator Smith?
Personal privilege, Mr. President.
Granted.
Thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce some friends up in the gallery here. We have the South Dakota Advocacy Network for Women. They've been here today with us, and we'd like to thank them for the work they do on behalf of women in the state of South Dakota. Thank you.
Welcome. Senator Lapke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joint appropriations, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Senator Shanefish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Education will meet tomorrow at 8:15, and we'll be taking our last two Senate bills of the year.
Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Tax will meet 15 minutes after adjournment.
Senator Colbeck.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Senate Judiciary, we have our last Senate bill, and then we'll move on to 5 House bills tomorrow.
Senator Pischke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Ag and Natural Resources Committee will be meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We have our last Senate bill. It's Senate Bill 124, talking about cell-cultured protein. I heard it's kind of a big deal, and so you guys might want to entertain it.
Senator Davis.
Thanks, Mr. President. Immediately following session up in room 412, there's going to be a presentation about some new EMS software that's going to be rolling out into communities. Would highly encourage you to just swing by for a couple minutes, just learn a little bit about the software and how it's going to be helping with ambulance transports in making it a very efficient thing for patients to get to where they need to go. Again, 412, real quick. EMS. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Melhoff.
Senate State Affairs will meet 15 minutes after session in 414, I believe, or maybe it's 413. You'll find it up there.
Senator Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. At 8 p.m., Capitol Commission at Red Rosa, and that's 8 p.m. Red Rosa.
All right, anybody else?
Senator Grove moves that the Senate do now adjourn.
That has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.